Good
First,
morning.
good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. Got my
Ex-
coffee.
Excellent. Well, it's another week come and gone. Can you believe that?
Weeks fly by.
I know, it's insane. So, for those of you that have been following us for the last few episodes, you'll know that we like to start our week off with a little recap of what we set for intentions and our words of the week before. So, last week we left you with the words energize 2.0 and, or energize and
I may have to do an Energize 2.0 this week.
organize 2.0, and so we'll check in and see how we did this week with those two words. How did you do with your word, Vanessa? Energize.
So I think, definitely like I've been doing a good job of taking small breaks throughout the day where I typically be on the go a little bit more. It's easy to sit down in one place for 8 hours, but it's super unhealthy and not good for energy levels at all. So I've been trying to stand up and just stretch and do that more frequently throughout the day, which just help with productivity and even focus. I always do a good job of eating regular. That's all I think about is what I'm going to eat next. And water intake is always good. But I've kind of, over the last few days, actually, it was not been good. Getting into like the third cup of coffee around like the 2:30, 3 p.m. mark, and it's
Yeah.
not good. And it throws me off for my sleep. Really affects that. So I've been doing good to try to stick to the 2 cups, which is I feel is my limit.
Yeah.
And I think I can improve on one thing. And I'm curious to know what you do with this, but I have to let my phone go before I go to sleep and just like kind of chill
Yeah.
and then fall asleep. Because I'm not doing a good job of that. So tell me what you do with that.
So, do you use your phone for your alarm? Is that part of the?
Yes. So it's
Okay.
next to it's
Okay.
on my bedside
So
table.
one strategy I've done is that I have the alarm, but it's not beside my bed, so it's further away from my bed.
Right. Okay.
Um, we have a habit of we sort of watch like an evening TV show before we go to bed instead of being on our phones and then shut it
Mm,
down.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, just making a conscious effort. Sometimes I'll put the do not disturb on the phone and then just put it away, and then calls and notifications don't come in.
Yeah.
So
That's a great idea
you're
too.
not seeing, oh, I got to see that or reply to that. And then just kind of shutting down. After 9, I'm always really trying to
Yeah.
avoid being on that device, which
It's a good
helps.
idea.
Yeah. So
Good.
that's
How
what I
did you
do.
do with your version 2.0 of Organize?
It was good. I think that picking the spaces I'm working on has been helpful. So sort of
Hmm.
concentrating on one area where not just a general organization.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think when I'm talking about the organization side of things, it's more about my home because I'm quite organized in my work schedule and my home life balance.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's more the organizing the kids' clothes for the seasons or getting
Yeah.
rid
It must be
of
time
outgrown
consuming.
items. So that aspect of kind of working mom has its challenges, as I'm
I
sure
bet.
many of our viewers can relate.
Hmm.
But yeah, so just sort of organizing through. And I think I'm going to keep the trend all summer and try to get there for September because we'll have 2 in school and then try to lead into a
Right.
really strong fall. So summer's a great time to get rid of stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of times people wait until September, like that fall start to do that, but
Yeah.
you'll have a head start on all of that.
Exactly. So I
So
have a few bags for the donations and organized. So it's been productive for sure.
that's
But
wonderful.
yeah, so that was an awesome week by the sounds of it. We hope that you guys took some meaning from that. And I know that in our community, we've had some great discussions and also starting to get some community members actually picking their own words
But
and
yeah, and
focusing on
awesome
those.
words.
And they're so amazing. I think I'm going to have
They
to
are.
borrow a few of
Yeah,
them as we
me
move
too.
on
I'm
because
taking note. I'm
I'm like,
taking note.
let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and then last week we actually talked about volunteering and the value that we have found in volunteering in our own lives. And so as we dig more into that, I think some of our discussions this week have revolved around what else comes with that volunteering, and what sort of values do we associate with some of the stronger volunteers or leadership positions we've seen in the past, and how we've identified with other people in organizations. And so we picked the definition and the term, the value, I guess you could say, of integrity as a discussion point this week. So Vanessa, how would you define integrity?
Yeah, so I think you're so spot on with how it flows from our volunteer, because I think the people that have the most integrity, that have crossed paths with me in my life, have been actually through volunteer activities that I've really seen that value shine through for many people. So for me, I think it's a quality, maybe more so than a skill, but I think it still can be learned over time. And when I think of someone with high integrity, I think of traits like dependability and honesty, loyalty, making good choices and good judgment. Good character is another one.
Mm-hmm.
And two of my all-time favorite people and quotes around
Surprise, you're going to
integrity.
bring some quotes
I
to the
know, sorry.
conversation.
I had to do it. I just had to do it. So here it goes. They're really short. But I can get two in if they're
Love
short,
it.
right? Okay. So the first is by Oprah Winfrey. And she states, real integrity is doing the right thing, knowing that nobody's going to know whether you did it or not. So I think that's,
Yeah,
just doing the right thing for the right reason, even when no one is watching. So
absolutely. Standing by your beliefs, no matter if there's eyes on you or not. That's so powerful.
yeah, I just love that one. And no one's going to be surprised. I'm a big fan of Brené Brown, and her quote on integrity is, integrity is choosing courage over comfort, choosing what is right over what is fun, fast, or easy, and choosing to practice our values rather than simply professing them. So I think that she's always, she's a big believer in taking your values and really putting them to action, right? And making
Mm-hmm.
sure that they're aligned in what you do. So what you say you're going to do is actually, how you behave. So
Yeah.
those two quotes for me are like integrity.
Oh, they say so much.
They do.
They're really powerful
Mhm.
words to live by. It's great that we can see how we can take from other people's words and apply to our
Yeah.
own lives, which is really wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I love quotes so much. um, so from your experience, when you think of people with high integrity, what should we expect of a person that displays integrity? What sort of things?
So, it's interesting because integrity has been something that I've really focused on as a virtue.
Hmm.
Um, and one of my mentors actually shared this with me a number of years ago, and it's always been like a seed that's been sort of growing in the back of my mind. So as I started my professional life and career, it's doing what you say you're going to do
Yeah,
in the simplest of
exactly.
terms. So acting in it with integrity, conducting business with integrity, uh,
Mm.
it's doing what you say you're going to do. So it's
Hmm.
following through on, if you say you're going to phone someone, phone someone.
Do it.
If
Yeah.
you say you're going to, follow up on something, follow up. And I think that it can be broken down to any role or task, um,
Anything in life. Yeah.
anything in life. It can be
Yep.
as simple as having integrity in your family, but
Hmm.
it's being honest and open and transparent. But I do love going back to that original seed of, it's doing what you say you're going to do.
Right.
And so
It sounds so simple, but
it's
so often we don't see it, being that easy for people, right?
yeah, and being dependable and following through with your commitments would fall under that. So if I try to make it a simplified description of what integrity means to me, or what I could expect with someone, so when I think about that person has integrity,
Yeah.
it means that they do what they say they're going to do, they follow through with their commitments, and they're very reliable.
Yes. Reliability. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So yeah, what would you say would
Yeah,
be
I think
another
just to add
quality?
to that, like people that are strong, they have a good, moral compass. And I think going to what you said, doing the right thing or following through, regardless of what that means. So,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what that decision or action, the consequences, like it may be not favorable for you. When I think of like being in sales, so I wouldn't sell something that I thought was going to harm a person, or do it because it was going to mean,
Yeah.
a good commission for me or something like that, right? It has to be right for the customer. And I think, so
Yeah.
regardless of the consequence.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's been a fundamental in my business and professional code of conduct as well, because
Right. In real
I'm
estate.
I'm
Absolutely.
with you. Like, I am the first person to advise clients that this is not a good fit if it's not a good fit.
Yep.
And I stand by
Being
always
honest, right?
being honest and transparent and making sure that it's not my interests that I'm looking after. It's
Mm.
theirs. And you can tell so quickly when people, especially in our industries of sales, um, and client care, it's very evident when that quality is present.
And so what do you find? So it's trust, right? So automatically you win that trust because they know that
Yeah,
you have them in mind, you have their back, right?
absolutely.
Yep.
When you can confidently talk about what you're going to do for someone and how you're going to do it,
Mhm.
you build that trust and it's following through. And over time, you start building that reputation of having integrity. And it starts with always, it's that follow through, and
Yes.
also the honesty approach to it as well,
Hmm.
of knowing when to take a step back or say, I can't do that, or
Right.
it's, I see where you're coming from, but I cannot conduct myself in that way. Or if someone asks something of you,
Mm.
being very honest with the answer so that it doesn't go past what you just said, that moral compass, that moral code.
Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of falls into the whole, like, people pleasing versus being in reality and a real space and saying, like, this is a limitation for me, or this is outside my scope of practice, whatever that is. But, and the reason why, right?
Yeah. And no,
Yeah.
not when you don't know the answer to something, don't make it
Mm.
up.
Yeah. I'm
you
going to
know
share a story about that actually. Yeah.
okay, that would be
Later on,
awesome.
but yes, don't make it up. Don't beat around the bush. Just be straight shooter, right?
Yeah, yeah, and have respect. I think,
Yes.
respect falls into that quality of integrity as well. Respect
Mm.
for others, respect for yourself,
Yeah.
knowing when you're not able to follow through. There's, again, they all fall together. That honesty and respect factor is, if you've said you're going to do something, to act in with integrity, and then you cannot follow through with it, be honest and respectful to those that you've made that promise to, so that
Mm.
you remain transparent, so that you
Yeah.
remain focused on the outcome, because you then protect what you say you're going to follow through on.
Mm. Yeah. I think, yeah, again, I totally agree. And I think in leadership positions, I've seen that. So oftentimes leaders they're striving to have the right answer for their team,
Hmm.
for example, right? So um, sometimes they have a hard time opening up and saying I was wrong, or I don't know the answer. And there's a vulnerability associated with that too. But I think it's okay to admit that you don't know. um, and that will
Yeah.
help everyone grow, right?
Yeah, very, very true.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they share idea. Leaders. You're talking about leadership and how leaders can show their integrity by not having all the answers and being open with teams and communities. But it's seeing it from all sides as well.
Mm.
Gathering input to help form that idea or improve it shows
Right.
integrity as well, because you're not threatened. You don't act in a threatened way. You're not
Yes, you're not trying to
intimidated.
protect yourself, and yes.
Yeah, so there's that openness and there, willingness to know that there's other ways to grow as well. So I think
Mm.
it's all very
It's all, yeah,
connected,
yeah.
right?
It's like this integrity ball of sorts, and all of those things we talked about. They all fit in there.
Yeah, but I do think it is virtue. It's, when we
Mm.
were talking about this idea of how to present, um, integrity, yes, it's a value, yes, it's a trait, but I think it's also a virtue, right?
Mm.
Like, I think that it has to fall into that category somewhat.
Were
And
you all? Do you feel like you've always been a person of integrity, or do you feel like there was a point in your life where you became?
so I was the kid in my school who couldn't bear to get into trouble. So,
Oh, okay.
like,
Follow the rules,
I
kind
was
of thing.
I'm a rule follower,
Yeah, I was one of
and
those as well.
I am
Mm.
not comfortable doing things that are bad. I remember in
Such a good
like
girl.
grade 3, I think I was after school, and I was with the guys, that my friends are all boys, and we spit on the playground, and I got
Right.
put in the red
Did
book.
they tell you to spit, or did you were just like,
They told me to spit. My teacher caught me, and I got put in the red book, which was the bad book, at the principal office. And I remember being mortified. I'm 31 years old, and I'm still talking about being put in the red book when I was 8.
yeah, and it probably feels like it was yesterday because that's ingrained in your memory.
And so I was that kid that sat in my seat in the class and was quiet, or, don't
Yeah.
wait till I'm spoken to.
Yes.
Because I was a rule follower and always wanted to stand by the standards that someone had set out for me.
Okay.
Yeah. How about
Yeah.
you? Yeah, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, if it's we're talking about integrity as a value, I think your values, become part of you. It's how you're raised, the environment's, a lot to do with, our parents or those kind of role model figures in our lives,
Yeah.
both family, friends, colleagues, situations in general. I think they shape us. And, like I said at the beginning, although it's more of a quality, I think if you weren't a person of integrity, there's a lot of ways to, again, we talk about self-discovery and
Mhm.
growing as an individual, a lot of ways to boost that up, right?
I couldn't agree more. I think that you can learn the value of integrity and know what it means, and then stand by those actions. So if I go back to what I said
Yeah.
about, it's at its core, it's doing what you say you're going to do. You can learn that. If you say you're going to do something, start doing those things,
Yeah.
and
Right.
have the outcome. So I think you can build that and become better at it over time.
Right. And I think I feel like you can be a person with integrity in some situations of your life and then have other areas where you need to work on it, right? I
Mm-hmm.
really have no problem saying that this is my limitation, or like managing those expectations. I do a better job of that in my personal home life than I do at work.
Right.
Um, I have a hard time saying, I don't think I can do that. Like, it's always like, yes, hi, I can do it. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I will get that done for you. Whether that means I have to work until midnight, or again,
Right.
it's
You're
like
quick to
over
raise your hand.
promising. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is, but again, if I don't meet that expectation for various reasons, whether it's out of my control or within my control, again, does that show up as being a person of integrity? Not really, right? I should have
Right.
just been clear. I'm not sure I can do that for you. I will try, but I'm not sure if
Yeah, I think
I
being
can do that.
honest and open about that, it's much more valuable if you think about being on the receiving end. If someone's going to commit to
Yeah.
something you've asked them to do, you'd rather them say, I'll try.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making any promises, but I think I can get this done. Give me this timeline. And that,
Yeah.
the timeline factor of getting things done that you say you're going to do as well is another
Mm-hmm.
consideration. Because if you're not
Yes.
clear about deadlines and timelines, it can be left open, and you might perceive it as someone not getting it done, but they just didn't put it on the list where you thought
Their
they did.
their priority list. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're in the position of asking someone to do something for you, it's important to ask for this in a specific period of time. And if you're on the
Mm-hmm.
receiving end of giving your time, maybe ask, when would you like this done by?
Yeah, being clear about that, right? So oftentimes we're disappointed in people that haven't met our expectations, but we haven't
Did we
told
set
them
the
what our
expectation?
expectation was.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I've learned
I
that
love
over
that.
time, because when we're in these volunteer roles, sometimes we
Yeah,
leave these meetings with action items,
right. With no timeline. Or
but there's no
yeah.
deadline, or it's a revolving timeline. So it's unclear of
Or it was
when,
a timeline that was just established by one person and wasn't agreed upon by a group, or
right.
yeah.
Or did you consider that someone might not be able to get it done by that specific date?
What's their capacity, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has a different capacity. Yeah.
So I think as we kind of full circle this into roles as a leader, and how you show up to with integrity on both
Mm.
the receiving and contributing end, be clear and say, I will get to this by this period of time. Or if you've missed the window of communication, which happened yesterday,
Okay.
we had a designated amount of time, the phone call didn't come in till over an hour later, and I had
Yeah.
to write and say, sorry, missed ya. Like, I had dedicated this time. I'll be
Yes.
available to speak to you again here, right? So that
Perfect.
you're allotting time blocks of schedules, because you can't always be on everyone else's schedule.
Oh,
You have to own your schedule and act within,
do
be
and
in,
manage it.
yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so many correlating
Oh, love it.
feeds into
So
this.
we shared some stories there, but can you like, do you have like a story to share about integrity, or how you showed up with integrity, or anything like that?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, it's a core value of how I operate my business,
Mm-hmm.
and I strive to always act with integrity and be honest and transparent with clients. And I would say that just in general, my experience or my story would be, if something's not right, or there's a reason it won't work or it shouldn't go forward, I'm never hesitant to pull the plug. I'm
Mm,
always there to
great.
say, I'm here for you and support you. And if that means a fallen deal or you're not comfortable, I'm there for you, and we act in in full confidence.
Right.
So
Together.
that's
Yeah.
together, and get the outcome you achieve. So that's something that I apply always, and it's been
Love
something
that.
I've built on over the last 5 years in building this business, and make sure
Yes.
that it is paramount and evident to my clients that they know at any point, this isn't the right move. We do this for you because I work for you.
Absolutely. And I think it's sometimes in sales, and real estate is a perfect example of that. You think you have to push, 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 and you're probably more successful. I know you've been more successful handling it that way than pushing hard, not keeping your customer in mind, right? So
Yeah,
that's
it's good.
wonderful.
How about you? How about any, is there a story that you have that really highlights integrity for you?
Well, I think probably a lot of our listeners can relate to this. If you're in your early 20s, or any kind of time in that, where you may have graduated and you're taking on a management position, um, or any type of leadership role where, you're just starting your career. And so when I think about 10 years ago, when I was just starting and entering this leadership role, leading people that had much more experience than me, 30, 40 years older than me,
Hmm.
um, I was intimidated. And I think that um, that showed up for me as not being consistent in how I was showing up. So I would come into work as a different me than I was at home, a different me than I was in social situations. So I had three different masks, if you will,
Right.
that I wore in different spaces. And I'll tell you, I think it was the point of my life that I felt uh, not healthy. I just remember just feeling sluggish, just not myself. And I think it was
Hmm.
because I was trying to morph into these different versions of myself at
You,
in
yeah,
every
so you were
environment, right?
showing up as almost a different you, wherever you were presenting, right? So you
Right.
would
Yeah.
walk in and be professional Vanessa, you would walk in and be, personal, private, your friends
Mm.
versus your colleagues. So you were changing that persona somewhat.
Yeah, it's sort of. And there's parts of me that would be consistent through those three pieces, but more so just that a fear for how people would respond, I guess, and especially in that work situation. How are they taking me as a young manager? So I
Right.
was more concerned about that than just being myself and
And letting
being
your
real
qualities
and
come through.
right, which would have been appreciated. And stop worrying about the age and the stage and all that piece. just
Yeah.
just be yourself, right? And I think you can relate, and you're connecting better. And if I look back now, if I would have done that differently, I think it would have been a better experience. But um,
Yeah,
I
but
think
we grow from that
we
too,
do,
right?
and
So,
absolutely,
and you
there's
might
nothing wrong with
have
that.
discovered a little bit more through that experience who the authentic you is, right? So when
Yeah,
did you feel most yourself?
that's right. And I think one thing we didn't mention throughout this topic yet is integrity, like a lot of things, is a choice, right?
Hmm.
So we can choose to not show up with integrity just as much
Yeah.
as we can choose to show up with it, right? So
Yeah.
making the choice to be consistent and your whole self, regardless of the environment or who you're around, is appreciated. People will connect with you better. They'll trust you. It will make a difference in your life. So, so make that
Yeah.
choice. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. That's great advice. And it's a great perspective on kind of where you've come from and how you've grown and where you're on your track to, because you never stop growing. You know,
You don't,
we're
and you change.
constantly working towards building who we are, and we learn along the way. And then all of a sudden we carry these values or things with us to be the best versions of ourselves too. So.
So true.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
Love
what a
it.
great chat. And there's so much wrapped up in integrity. And I hope that people can kind of consider what integrity means to them and how they're showing up with that in mind. You know, keeping
Mind
that in
every
mind
day.
and presenting that, or look back and see moments of when they've shown up with the most integrity.
Yeah, and to celebrate that, right? And it might have felt uncomfortable. It may not have been well received, or it may have actually resulted in a less favorable situation for themselves,
Yeah.
right? But if your heart's saying like I did the right thing, I
Yep.
followed through, then there's no better feeling. It's a feeling of fullness, and you just know it's right.
For sure. Oh,
So
awesome. Very good.
yeah, word of the week.
I think I'm going to go with scheduling.
Okay.
Yeah. So to build on my organizing theme,
Yep.
I'm now forming this routine, and that we have kids, we have with work, we have with running business, but also having experiences and trying to get out into the world. So I think that the scheduling, I'm going to work on what our summer looks like.
Right.
To tell you the truth, like, what does the next 3 months look like? So now that we're coming out of this uncertain time and things are starting to open up,
Yep.
we still know we're not sending our youngest back to daycare, and our school age is home.
The schedule is still looking different than a
It's
typical
still
year.
different. And
Yeah.
also, so how are we going to navigate that? What days are we going to go where? Have some consistency so that there's a bit of a theme. Look at weather pattern, what are the things we want to accomplish this summer? And then
Maybe not every day, like having a set plan, but overall, like what does your summer look like?
Yeah. And maybe I'm even thinking like a checklist for what we're going to do this summer as a family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my mind is sort of shifting into that mom mode this week, but it's been interesting because that scheduling piece has been more important because business is starting to pick back up. So
now I'd be disappointed if your schedule didn't involve paper and colored markers and pens, because I know you, and I know that this is not going to be an electronic, like, is
maybe
it
not.
schedule?
No. There'll probably be a lot of Post-it notes and colors. The kids might even, yeah. I'm a very visual person, as you may have learned.
Yeah. So you'll have to take a photo of that and share it in the Kalea community.
Maybe I'll have a poster by the end of it. That's our summer. Our summer. Yeah.
Probably.
How about you? What's your word of the week going to be?
Well, remember back to our B challenge, and I think it was one of the B words that we didn't actually end up using, but I love the word, and it's curious. So I've been learning a lot at work. I mean, I always learn a lot day to day, but with this whole COVID thing, being in supply chain, there's always something new to learn. So I've been having to dig deep for answers, but going back to setting expectations, I always have this pressure on myself to always have the right answers right away, timely, and all of that. And I'm going to be mindful of curiosity and get comfortable with saying I don't know, but I'd like to know that as well.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure that we get an answer for you, and in what time.
Nice.
What time frame, right?
Yeah.
So I'll add that because I think what you suggested there is awesome. So yeah, being curious.
Fabulous. I love it.
Will be my word. So again, 2 awesome words for the week. To our listeners, we would love for you to share Coffee with Kalea within your community, especially if you're really enjoying it, which we know you are. And you can share your support by liking, sharing, leaving positive comments. We love reading them, both on our YouTube and podcast channels. Remember to subscribe, though. You have to subscribe. So thanks for being here with us today. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great Sunday.
See ya.
Take care, Meg.